Have you ever played a game where you have to make babies to save the world? Well, I have. Today, we're looking at Conception 2: Children of the Seven Stars. The premise is simple. The world is ridden with monsters that spawn from different dusk circles scattered around the globe. To fight them, the National Star God Academy recruits and trains disciples, kids who manifest the Star God's mark on their hand. We immediately meet our protagonist, Noodle YouTube. No guys, I promise you that's what he's called. Who shortly after disembarking from a ship on his way to the academy meets up with two of his classmates who he ends up taking the qualifying exam with. It's explained that disciples are ranked based on combat power ranging from F to S, with B through S being considered elites and... Wait, was that? Yeah, so aside from this statement being complete bogus, since almost every character you'll ever see on screen is S rank, the protagonist and his friends take the exam, and it turns out that even though he's only A rank, his willy is so massive that he gets called the God's Gift. Now, this is where it gets weird. The implications of having an either count so high are being able to enter dusk circles and neutralize them from the inside, which is cool, and having to pour his energy into the star womb of S-rank female disciples, which is necessary to conceive star children, magical creatures who help him battle against evil monsters. So without wasting a single second, we're immediately taken to classmate with our friend Fuko, who rightfully says she isn't in the mood, but apparently we don't care, because we proceed with the ritual anyway.
Take full responsibility and watch over the ritual between you two.
Say what now? After a brief explanation of the act, we get to it and... Am I allowed to show this on YouTube?
Don't let your kids watch it!
Okay, this OST is hilarious. The classmating ends in a major success with us conceiving triplets, and after some more dialogue we're free to play at our own pace. And I think this is what makes Conception 2 feel so bizarre to me, because the game never really plays any of this like a joke. It's not winking at the camera, it's not going, "Guys, can you believe this?" It just presents the whole thing with complete sincerity. Everyone talks about classmating, star wombs, and magical combat children with the same tone you'd explain library rules on the first day of school. And somehow, that makes it even weirder. Because if the game was fully comedic, or fully shameless, or fully self-aware even, I could at least lock it into one wavelength. But Conception 2 has this strange energy where it feels like it actually expects you to take all of this at face value. Which means that the real absurdity isn't just that you're making babies to save the world, it's that the entire academy, church, and cast seem to think that this is a perfectly normal administrative process. The gameplay loop whenever you're outside of story dialogue is pretty straightforward. You get 3 hearts which you can spend to talk to various S-class heroines to bond with by going to the academy. By doing so, you can get bond points, raise your intimacy with them, and brighten their mood if you pick the right dialogue option. And to be fair, the heroines do at least try to give this whole thing some personality. They're not all the same. Each one is built around her own anime archetype, so depending on who you spend time with, you'll get a different flavor of interaction. The problem is that even when the game wants these girls to feel like actual characters, the whole bonding system is so tied to mood, points, and optimization that they can end up feeling less like people and more like units you're trying to prepare for the next baby manufacturing session. You can choose to classmate by going to the church, and based on your partner's mood whenever you do the deed, your children's stats will vary. Also, the more you bond with a partner, the more poses you will unlock when getting busy. Art imitates life, am I right? Finally, you can choose to go inside the Dusk Labyrinth or rest to restore your hearts and keep flirting with every girl in sight, meaning it's up to you how you want to spend your days. Whether you want to get active or get active. Even though there's no real rush, since even if it says spring in the top left corner, there's no actual calendar system and time only advances when the story does. Now, let's take a look at dungeon crawling, shall we? Maybe art doesn't imitate life after all. Dungeon crawling in this game can be essentially summed up as, we have Persona at home. Dungeons are very straightforward, and there's only one placeholder model for enemies with a few variations for when they're much weaker or stronger than you. Although I have to say, being able to one-shot weaker enemies is a nice touch since it makes it easy to grind. Dungeons also don't have much thematic depth. Every floor looks exactly the same and only loosely hints at the theme it's supposed to represent. Like, this is meant to be the Dungeon of Lust, and while there are a few hearts on the walls here and there, you're mostly fighting big guys with swords and bats. There are also item capsules lying around that are divided into common and rare, with rare ones allegedly having a chance to be a trap when opened, though I say allegedly because even after opening possibly hundreds of them, I've never been trapped a single time. Before even talking about the combat itself, I should probably explain who is actually fighting, because this game doesn't just let you make star children for the bit, it wants you to build your entire army out of them. Every time you classmate, the babies you get can be assigned to different classes. So right from birth, you're already min-maxing your newborns like some kind of deeply unethical daycare manager. And instead of bringing one normal party into battle, you build separate squads made up of these children, meaning the whole combat system is literally balanced around taking your freshly produced offspring into monster-infested dungeons. Combat itself is pretty simple. All you need to know is that you've got the action menu, where you can choose your action, attack to turn order, you gotta take a look at each team's turn order, and each team will be displayed, chain drive gauge that displays the amount of chain required for the gauge. Yeah, so this is actually a pretty big issue with this game. I've obviously been condensing things a lot, but it genuinely shows you 5 pages of tutorial for every button you click in the first 4 hours or so. Combat is actually deep. There's a lot to cover actually. The main gimmick is positioning. Every enemy has 4 sides, and certain sides count as weak points. So instead of just picking attack, you're constantly moving these child squads around the target to hit it from the right direction. That part is actually kind of neat, because it makes fights feel less like a normal menu-based RPG and more like you're arranging little strike teams around the battlefield. Then the game piles on more systems. There's either density, which affects how quickly your side gets turns, and then there's the chain system, where good positioning and momentum lets you build toward bigger combos that delay enemies and swing the flow of battle in your favor. So on paper, there's a decent amount going on here. Turn order, weak points, chain pressure, speed management, and team composition. And the best part about it? You are absolutely free to just skip all over that, since not only enemies are rather weak, but autoplay is actually cracked. Don't believe me? Well, check this out. I even beat a boss with it. Even when you don't want to resort to abusing auto mode, there's still so much you can abuse. You can end up stun locking enemies like I did here with the first boss and kill them before they even get to play the game. Turns out, when a battle system rewards you by slowing down the enemy and buffing your speed at the same time, it does get somewhat unbalanced. And that's kind of it for Conception 2. The game shows you absolutely everything it has way too early. Once you've seen the opening hours, the classmating, the social loop, the child squads, and the dungeon structure, there really aren't many new cards left for it to play. It's an extremely front-loaded game. Instead of evolving its systems or taking the story anywhere particularly interesting, it mostly just keeps sending you into one dungeon after another. which means that after the initial "what the hell is this game" phase wears off, what you're left with is a pretty ordinary and repetitive RPG wearing an extremely weird skin. And to be fair, that might be Conception 2 in one sentence. A game with a premise bizarre enough to hook you instantly, but not enough substance to make that weirdness last.